This is Chapter 2, Section 5 notes. Today we are going to be rewriting a literal equation. So Part A says, you are ordering pizzas and sandwiches. A pizza costs $10 and a sandwich costs $5. You have a budget of $80. Write an equation to model the number of pizzas and sandwiches you can purchase. So for every pizza you buy, it's $10. For every sandwich you buy, it's $5. So you can write an equation like 10p plus 5s equals 80. So 10 times the number of pizzas plus 5 times the number of sandwiches should equal $80. That was pretty easy. Part B, using the equation from Part A, how many sandwiches can you buy if you buy 3 pizzas? So your p, you're going to plug in 3. So 10 times 3 plus 5s equals 80. So 10 times 3 is 30. 30 plus 5s equals 80. Subtract 30 from both sides, and you'll get 5s equals 50. Divide by 5, and you'll get s should be 10. So you can buy 10 sandwiches if you buy 3 pizzas. So Part C says how many sandwiches can you buy if you buy 6 pizzas. So this time you're going to plug 6 in for the pizzas, or p. So you should have 10 times 6 plus 5s equals 80. 10 times 6 is 60. So 60 plus 5s equals 80. Subtract 60 from both sides, and you'll get 5s equals 20. Then divide by 5, and so you'll get s equals 4. So if you buy 6 pizzas, you can only buy 4 sandwiches. If you buy 3 pizzas, you can buy 10 sandwiches, and this is your overall equation to calculate how many pizzas or sandwiches you can buy. So problem number 2, rewriting a literal equation. So it says, solve 6x equals 7 minus 4y for y. Then find the value of y when x equals -2, -1, and 0. So for this first part, I have to get y by itself. So that means I'm going to start by subtracting 7 to the other side, because my whole goal is just to get this y by itself. So I'll have 6x minus 7 equals -4y. So now I need to get rid of the -4 that's being multiplied times the y. So I have to divide by -4. Now what I do to this side, I have to do to everything over on this side. Now I can just leave it as a fraction. So 6 over -4x. These two negatives will actually cross out to make it positive. 7 over 4, and that'll equal y. So that's my equation with y all by itself. Doesn't look the greatest, but it does work. So my next sentence says find the value of y when x equals, well, we'll start with -2. So I'm going to start with this equation, 6x equals 7 minus 4y, and I'm going to plug in -2 for the x position. And then I just start solving. 6 times -2 is -12. Now I'll subtract 7 from both sides. -12 and -7 give me -19. And then divide by -4. Again, these two negatives will cross off, but I can leave it as a fraction, so y will equal 19/4. Then I do the same exact thing, but now I plug in -1 for the x. You'll notice that these steps are all the same. So first things first, 6 times -1 will be -6. Then subtract 7 from both sides. So -13 equals -4y. Then divide by 4, or -4. These two negatives will cross off, and I can leave it as the fraction 13/4. And then my last one is 0. So 6 times 0 equals 7 minus 4y. 6 times 0 is 0. Subtract 7. So -7 equals -4y. Divide by -4. Again, the negatives will cross off, so my y will be 7/4. So there are actually multiple parts to this problem, and that means that it'll be worth a lot of points. So work for this, and then the equation, work for this, then the answer, work for this, the answer, work for this, then the answer. Okay, so this would be worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points for just that one problem. Okay, so number 3, what equation do you get when you solve ax minus bx equals c for x? So we want to try and get the x's alone. So notice how both of these parts over here have an x. Well, you can do something really cool whenever anything has the same letter, and that is you can, what's called factor, it's reverse distribution. So I can actually take an x on the outside of parentheses and leave the a minus the b on the inside. Because they both had an x for me to take, I put it on the outside, and I have a minus b, and that equals c. So now I can actually, because there's being multiplying between these two, I can actually divide each side by a minus b. And I leave it in the parentheses, and I leave this as a fraction. So over here, these cross off to leave me with just x. So x equals c divided by, in parentheses, a minus b. That's your final answer. It looks a little weird. It's all letters, I know, but that is the easiest way to solve this equation. Step 3 gets a little bit into geometry. So I give you this big table, and the biggest part about this table is the formulas. So these are the most important parts. So it goes to the perimeter of a rectangle, that's this equation, circumference of a circle, that's this equation, area of a rectangle, this equation, area of a triangle, is this equation, area of a circle, distance traveled, and temperature. So you're going to read through the problems that they give you and just select the formula that you need to use. So for example, it says, what is the radius of a circle with a circumference of 64 feet? So I have to read through this and find where circumference is, which happens to be the second line. So I'm going to use c equals 2 pi r. Okay, c is the circumference and r is the radius. It wants to know what the radius will be, what the r will be, if the circumference is 64. So I'm going to plug in 64. So 64 equals 2 pi r. Now, I'm going to need to get rid of this 2 and the pi, and they're being multiplied. So I'm actually going to divide by the 2 pi, okay, to undo. So that'll cross off both the 2 and the pi. And over here, I'll need to do the same thing. So you just take 64 divided by, and in the calculator, you need to put parentheses around the 2 and the pi. There's actually a pi button on the calculator. If you can't find it, please let me know, and I will show you exactly where it's at or how to type this in. So when you do 64 divided by 2 pi, you get the radius equals 10.1859, lots of other decimals, feet. Okay? When you have problems like this, I really want you to round to the nearest 100th. So this should be 10.19 feet. Okay, so you don't have to write out all the other decimals, but I do want you to make sure that you're rounding to the correct second decimal place.